Hello, everyone, and welcome to part five. We are going forward, right? So today we're basically talking about what does the process look like if you're going to choose, your will and you also want God's will at the same time. Okay, so let's paint a picture. You see, my hair's done. Yeah, I was looking like a frisbee in the last one, right? But let's paint a picture, okay? So I want you to imagine. I'm going to try and put like graphics here, okay? That there is this road. This is your way, okay? And then there is this road, and this is God's way. Well, you are one person, right? You are one person. So can you go on two roads at the same time? And don't come tell me, yeah, I can just be in the middle. Because the middle gets you nowhere, and the middle is dangerous, right? Because you can't pick a side. So if you have your way and then there's God's way, you cannot do them at the same time. That is just point blank, period. And I want to talk to you about your choices because your choices are very, very important, right? As you are now going through the process of learning how to surrender, okay, when you learn how to surrender, it doesn't feel good, is what I want you to know. So it doesn't feel good initially, but the benefit that you gain from it afterwards feels so good. Okay, because you come into a different type of trust and understanding of who God is that money and time and friendships and anything cannot pay for. So I need you to just understand something. When God says in Luke 16, he says, you will serve one master. You cannot serve two masters, right? So you cannot serve your will and God's will at the same time. It's not possible. And I'll tell you what happens when you try to pick your way and pick God's at the same time. Because I need you to understand something about God. God has no rival, He has no equal. And when you are trying to pick your way and also pick God at the same time, I need you to understand the type of hypocrisy that you're bringing to God, right? Because you are bringing an idol, okay? You're bringing another God, if I can put in that term, okay? An idol is another God. You're bringing another God to God and say, God, can you bless me with this? And because God has no rival, no equal, and He says, you will have one Lord, you will have one God. We try to put things in the way that He does have a rival and He does have an equal, us. Or whatever we think is better than His will, right? So what you end up doing is your decision or your lack of a decision of the will of God, whatever it is that you want that you're refusing to give to God becomes your idol. But I need you to understand something, okay? And it's not going to be really a nice thing to hear, but you're going to hear it because you've probably experienced it anyways, okay? When you pick your will, okay, and let's just have a very easy example, okay? Let's talk about a relationship. God doesn't want you with somebody. God doesn't want you with this person. You know they're not good for you, right? You know you're not aligning on certain things and it's just not feeling what it used to feel, whatever, that time in the beginning or whatever, okay? And you want God's will, and you know that God is actually calling you to a different time and a different season. And God is basically saying, I need you to detach from this person, right? Well, you know your will is to be comfortable and keep the person there because perhaps they will change or perhaps whatever, and you have love for the person. Love is not the thing that's just supposed to keep you connected. The thing that keeps you connected in your life is the will of God. It's the decisions that you make in the will of God, okay? Because I need you to kind of come out of your feelings a little bit, which you will learn as well, okay? But picture time. So you want to stay in the relationship. God doesn't want you in the relationship. Can you keep both things at once? No. Right? Because it's based on your decision. You are either deciding that you're going to stay here, which means that you can't partner there because you can only be on one road at a time, right? So what happens is you still are there in the relationship, right? You're still there in the relationship with the person you're not supposed to be in a relationship with. And so if you really want the will of God, you can still hold on to the will of God and be saying, God, I still want you, and God is going to help you, right? But God wants you to let go, right? That's what surrender is. God wants you to let go. So what happens when you don't let go? You get hurt. And it's not God hurting you, it's actually you hurting you, right? Because why? God has no rival, he has no equal. He's not going to compete with you. He's not going to compete with what is not of himself. He only partners with that which is of himself. And so what happens is, because you find your comfort in another God, right? In your other decision, in these other people that you don't want to let go of, or whatever it is, right? Your fear, whatever, right? You find it now, it's a God to you. You worship it. You comply to it rather than you complying to God. That's what worship is, okay? So what's going to happen is God is going to let you go to your God, and your God then disappoints you, and your God then hurts you because your God's not alive, right? Can do nothing for you. But you have the true and living God that is on your side, that has a will for you, and he's not going to compete. So he's still holding on to you, right? And you find that the thing that you really wanted ends up hurting you so much that you eventually let go. You hurt you until you finally let go, right? So that is, unfortunately, that is kind of the type of processing, okay? That they will disappoint you, they will not show up for you, they'll be unreliable, they'll be traumatic kind of people, do you know what I mean? Right? And that is the processing you have to go through because you refused to leave at the time that it was time to leave, right? So then God hands you over, shows you how, and basically says to you, okay, go and see how great your road is that you chose, right? And then you find that this person actually, they can't tend to my needs, they can't tend to my emotions or anything like that, that don't feel safe, right? And that's basically what you learn, right? So you get hurt until you finally let go, and then you come over and you say, okay, God, I'll take you away, right? And I'm not saying that to you out of something that I have not experienced. I've actually experienced that. Okay, when I first came to the Lord in April 2022, well, I was in a little bit of a situation because I didn't understand that, oh, God was not going to bless what I had already kind of created and put myself into, right? And I knew God did not want me with a certain person. And I really wanted to have my way and have God's way at the same time. And God allowed that person to hurt me till I let go. I was fed up. I said, okay, then fine, right? And that is basically what happened. And then God still, obviously, I had to go through other processing, forgiveness, take away resentment, all that stuff, right? But I remember at that time that I was still praying for God to bless my idol, just make a few substitutions and alternatives on how I can still have a little bit of this, right? And God was just like, oh, my daughter's delusional, right? But he still loved me. Like, he was not like upset or anything, right? But he's like, I can't do that. It's just not who I am, right? So I allowed, because of my inability to trust God and go by his will and just cut off and do whatever, right? That it ended up hurting me until I let go. That's how I learned, right? To fire. So that is what your process ends up looking like, right? And I'm being transparent with you because those are just things that we really could do go through, and I'm very grateful for that because I learned it very quickly. But this is what it is, right? You cannot have your cake and eat it too. You can't have all the cakes in the world and eat from the King of Kings. You just can't, right? So when you partner with the enemy and you still want the will of God, you're going to find yourself very confused. You're going to find yourself in a lot of pity and a lot of guilt and a lot of shame because you know that this is the right thing that you're supposed to do, but you are over here. But what I'm trying to tell you from the story is that the process of you trying to choose your own will is going to hurt you. It's not going to hurt God. It's not going to hurt it. You'll be hurt. I've also gone through that. So I'm not talking to everything I talk about. I'm not talking about things I have not experienced. Okay. Things I have not learned and come out of so that I can actually help you. So I think for part 6, address the delays that we cause for ourselves because we're scared to walk in the will of God. Because there are delays that we cause for ourselves, right? And they're very little delays, but they really mean a lot. And it can come from, you trying to get counsel and, kind of just prolong it a little bit. Like God says, okay, I need you to go somewhere on Thursday. And you're like, oh yeah, Thursday comes and you keep prolonging. You're like, no, maybe we'll go tomorrow. Do you know what I mean? Right? Like all those little things are little delays that you caused because you're afraid of something. And God is also trying to prove something to you in that fear, in that direction, that I am safe for you and I'm going to show you that I show up for you. Okay? So I'll see you for part 6. Bye.